Creator is spot on. Let me explain why. When we are trying to optimize for stretching and targeting our glutes, we need to allow the knee to bend relatively more. Now, many people think this is a mistake because it involves more quads, but that's not true. Why? Well, because the actual loading of an RDL is basically straight through the knee. So even if it's bending, that doesn't mean more quads. And when we bend the knee more, what we do is we actually allow for more hip flexion. And hip flexion is a fancy way to basically just say the femur and the pelvis are moving closer together on the front side right here. So this gap right here is closing. And we can't fully stretch the glutes without fully closing this gap. And what will limit us from closing this gap in the case of trying to train the glutes is if the knee is straighter. But as this creator mentions, when the knee is straighter, this is more hamstrings. Let's talk about why. Because the hamstrings, which I'm now representing with green, wrap around the back of the pelvis and behind the knee. So watch what happens when we create a straighter knee position. Here, we move that femur more like that. And boom, now we got a straighter knee position because the hamstrings are running like this. They're now stretching more from the back side of the knee perspective, in addition to now their stretch at the hip. But notice what happens to this angle. You see how it's more open? So we actually get less total closing of this gap when we're doing the hamstrings dominant variation. That again is specifically because we're keeping the knee straighter, i.e. because we are stretching the hamstrings more. So when you have your knee angle greater, your hip angle also ends up being greater because your hamstrings reach a terminal stretch sooner. But when you end up doing this to target your glutes and your knees are more bent, you can close this gap on the front side of the body more. So overall, knees more bent for a glute dominant hinge, knees less bent for a hamstrings dominant hinge. And of course, both the glutes and the hamstrings are contributing in either case, but this is how you dramatically will shift the primary muscle involved. So fantastic post. I hope it helps.